Hello, I'm Chuck Wolf, Chief Executive for Charles J. Wolf Associates, LLC. As a motivational speaker and a leadership consultant and executive coach and trainer, I often work with very successful people and their companies. Since many can't afford a professional, I volunteer to host a radio talk show called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, on a nonprofit community radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, WPKN. My reason for doing the show is to share with as many people as possible this wonderful process for helping people manage their own emotions and their relationships with others. My goal is for everyone listening to learn to use the Emotion Roadmap to make life better. As you listen to me, help others, I hope you are also learning. As a Simsbury resident, I'm delighted to be able to make the show available through Simsbury TV. To learn more, go to my website, www.emotionroadmap.com. Thank you for listening and watching. This is Chuck Wolf, and you're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And I hope that you're all doing well on a challenging day. This is a challenging day for the world as we're all sort of on pins and needles about what comes next with what just happened in our country with Iran and what's going on in the world outside of the United States and what's going on outside of maybe your homes and you're just sitting here, especially those of you with any people in the military. You have our prayers, our best wishes, and our support for whatever comes next. I just want to say, if people feel like they want to talk about how they're feeling about what's going on in the world, this is not typically that show, but these are very emotional times, and if that's something you want to talk a little bit about, that's fine with me. This is Chuck Wolf. The show's The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. And those might be some of the emotions you're experiencing on a day when there was a few things that have happened in the world. I won't go over them because if you're not in touch with that, you may not want to hear about them. But I think most people are these days. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. I want to thank my regular listeners who are people that really like to tune in to the Emotion Roadmap. For those of you that are new to the show, I want to thank you for just finding us today. The show is about helping people deal with challenging situations. A lot of times I find smart people, when they are stuck and they are confused or unable to move forward around anything in their lives, whether it's at home with family or whether it's something that has to do with the community they live in or the neighborhood or something at work, all of those are game for the show. In other words, if you've got something where you're undecided about how to move forward, about how to make some determination about what's your next step in a situation where there's a conflict of some kind or a decision that needs to be made that has repercussions that are extremely meaningful to you and perhaps people you're close to, family or people at work, and you're sort of struggling with that, one of the things that this show is about is helping everybody who is listening learn how to use this emotion roadmap to work through the emotions that are in place in situations that seem unsolvable, almost impossible to resolve, and to try to understand through a process that I created a number of years ago about how to take more responsibility for how you're feeling and how to be more confident and efficient in influencing the feelings of others. So that's sort of what I try to do on every show, where I ask people if they'd like to call in and they have something that they've been thinking about and they want some help. My background is as a psychologist, an expert in the field of emotional intelligence. I've had some wonderful learning opportunities in my life, including working at Harvard Business School at one time, working with the president of Yale University on emotional intelligence, making presentations all over the world, most recently in Vienna, and in Montreal, and I have the capacity to help people, and that's what I bring to the show. As a volunteer, as one of the many, many volunteers who are programmers here at WPKN, we all want to make a contribution in the best way that we can, and the way I try to do it is by helping you individually resolve something that's happening in your life, and at the same time hoping that everybody who listens is learning how to use this emotion roadmap, is learning how to take more responsibility. The tagline, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel is really all about understanding how much more powerful we can be in managing our own emotions. Most of the time we feel like our emotions are sort of in the background, and when they are really strong, they're controlling us instead of us controlling them. And I want to help everyone understand that we can take far more responsibility for how we're feeling, that we don't necessarily have to continue to feel a certain way if what we're feeling isn't helpful. So that's what the show's about. One of the things that I like to do is to have you call in if you've got something. And what you might want to talk about is a conflict that you're experiencing either at home or at work or in your community and neighborhood, as I said before. And when I say a conflict, it's often something that's happening where you need to have a conversation with someone that you know is going to be challenging. You're afraid of having the conversation because you're not quite clear what you're going to say, or you're really clear what you want to say, but you're worried about how the other person is going to receive it. And instead of maybe resolving it, you're worried that it might escalate the situation. That's the typical kind of thing people will talk about. You know, often about relationships that aren't working quite the way you want. So it doesn't have to be about a conflict. It can just be something where you're trying to get close to somebody, you're trying to work better with somebody, you're having some difficulty with a person's personality, and you want to know if there's some things that you can learn to do to either manage what's going on inside of you in terms of how you react to it, or maybe influence some of the things that are really bothersome to you in different ways. So let me give you the number to call. It's 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So I'll give you a moment to think about what you might want to call about, and I'll be talking about a few different things because I always bring some thoughts to bring with me to the audience that I think are just things that I read or experience or learn about in different ways that I just think are really important and powerful and worth sharing. Again, the number is 203-336-9756. You're listening to WPKN. I'm Chuck Wolf. The show's The Emotion Roadmap. Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. And it's typically a call-in show, and so this is where you call in. 203-336-9756. And what you might call about, again, are relationships with people in your family, people in your workplace, if you're a leader of people, what it means to lead successfully, what it means to lead with emotional intelligence. You might have some questions about that. There's a lot that's trending these days. It's a funny thing to say, trending. What's trending? We didn't talk about what's trending a few years ago, but now we talk a lot about what's trending. And emotional intelligence is trending. What I mean by that is that there's a lot being written and talked about in the world of emotional intelligence. And what that world is about is this idea that each of us can be smarter about managing what's going on inside of ourselves emotionally. And also, we can be smarter about how to get along with others and managing our relationships and the emotions we have with other people. So that's all part of what the show is all about and what emotional intelligence is about. There's a multitude of definitions out there about what emotional intelligence is, and if you Google emotional intelligence, you'll see many of them. So the field might be a bit confusing for you, so come to this radio show to be unconfused, to learn more about what really is the meaning of this idea of emotional intelligence. And to me, it's pretty clear. It's the ability to identify how you're feeling accurately and identify how others are feeling. Use emotions to make yourself more successful than you might be if you weren't paying attention to what you were feeling. So use emotions, identify emotions, and understand emotions. Understand how emotions work. Understand how we might move ourselves from a feeling of anxiousness to one of confidence, or a feeling of being worried to feeling calm. How could we do that? So understanding how emotions work. And finally, managing emotions. Managing our own emotions. Influencing the emotions of others. and even potentially managing others' emotions. So that's what the definition is about. The ability to identify, use, understand, and manage our own emotions and our ability to influence others' emotions. Now, why is that important in life? Well, emotions to me are sort of like breathing in this sense. If I ask you, are you breathing? Well, you weren't thinking about whether you were breathing or not, but if you're listening to this show, I'm pretty clear you're breathing. You're breathing, right? I mean, breathing is just what I mean by that is it's sort of in the background, right? We don't think about breathing unless our breathing is very labored. We just went up, several flights of stairs, or we just did a workout and we went for a run, or a stairmaster, or we did push-ups or something. But whatever we've done, we notice our breathing because it's labored. That's when we know we're paying attention to the fact that we're breathing, because our breathing is sort of in the forefront in our consciousness. Now, emotions are like that too. Emotions are always there. We're always feeling something. If I asked you this second to stop and think about what exactly are you feeling? Not that I'm feeling fine, but what does fine mean? What are you feeling? Are you feeling engaged at all, I hope, about what I'm talking about? Are you feeling curious? Do you want to know more? Are you feeling concern and you're wondering, should I make that call? Does this person who is on air actually have something he might say that could help me with what it is I'm struggling with? Do I dare take a shot at this? And maybe you're feeling, again, curious whether that could be helpful, but maybe hopeful that I could be helpful. But also, I'm certain that whoever is out there listening is probably somewhat anxious about making a phone call like this, right? Well, if you think you might have a chance to get some help on something that's been confounding you for some time, that's why I'm here. I love helping people. I love being able to make a difference. And not only that, but when you call, you help everybody else, because everyone that's listening is also someone who is got things that they need to learn how to manage better. We all can improve how we manage our emotions and how we influence the emotions of others and how we can improve in our relationships. Everybody can do better at that. And so the more you learn, the better life is. And what I love doing is making a meaningful, positive difference for folks. And if I can help you as an individual, at the same time, help everybody who's listening to learn how to do this for themselves and their own family and loved ones and coworkers and leaders and followers and team members. If I can help one person over the air understand how to better handle a situation that's been troubling for them, for you, everybody's learning. So here we go. Thanks. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who's calling, please?
Hi, my name is, well, I'm not sure I want to give my name.
Well, let me call you Ann. How's that? Can I call you Ann?
Perfect.
Okay,
That's
great.
perfect. It's very interesting that you said Ann.
First one that came up, but letter A.
So I was listening to you just for the last 6 minutes. I was just in my car doing some errands. So I stopped and said, you know what, I just want to maybe check that I could be doing more than I did. So the issue was that I have sisters and a very nice sister-in-law and other people. And so because I don't have kids their age or do as much with them in a family setting, that and when I was going to some events with them so that I felt like I was part of the group, I kept getting over the last year feelings from one person that I was annoying them. Every time I'd make a comment, they would just roll their eyes. Or I would do something wrong and make a mistake, and it was like, oh, there she goes, she's doing it again. So around Thanksgiving, I said, a couple things came up, and I said, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to write a letter. So I did, and I tried to put it as much on myself that I'm feeling this. When this happens, I feel blah, 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 so that it wasn't, you're making me feel stupid, you're doing this, you're doing that. I tried to keep it on me.
Okay.
So then finally she got the letter, and she called me. And it sort of wasn't okay, and then it sort of escalated into, well, you do this and you do that, back and forth, and I knew I was starting to get agitated, so the other person hung up. So I called him back, and we did talk. But at that point, since I'm related, she let loose of, I don't know, 30 years of resentment of me. So now I'm feeling very just in a point where I don't know where to proceed or how to do it and still be a good sister.
So this is a sister. This is actually part of your family growing up.
So,
Is that right?
I'm sorry?
I say this is a sister. So
It's a sister.
Yeah,
It's a sister who's several years younger than I am. And I have other sisters who are much younger.
okay. So
From a very big family, a very difficult family to be with, parents-wise. So, anyway, go ahead.
So all I was going to say was it's not unusual for siblings to have jealousies over the years. It is unusual for a resentment to build up like that and to be acted out this way.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things, and this is important. Again, one of the things I said, and again I'll call you Ann. One of the things I said.
Yeah.
One of the things I said was that when I'm going to try to help you, I also want to explain what I'm doing and why. Okay.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
So one of the things that's really useful to think about is when somebody presents you with a situation like you just did, and which is this idea of having this signals being sent that you were being resented, but not really understanding it, and the way you
Right.
dealt with it, and the way she responded, and where you are right now. The question is, okay, so what do you do going forward? So rather than me jump in and say something, what's really useful, and this is important for everybody to understand, is to understand what are you thinking of doing. Before I say anything, I want to understand you've been dealing with this for a while, and since Thanksgiving, that's a few months or a month and a half or something. And so the question is, you're obviously challenged by this, and you're not sure how to proceed. But my guess is you have some thoughts about what you might do, and that's really sort of important to at least test and see. If you don't, I'll jump in and offer. But it's always important to just see, where are you now? What are you thinking of doing?
Right. So where I'm now is, since we don't see each other except at these games events that we go to once, it's weekly, but I haven't been doing it every week. But I try to because I enjoy being around most of the people and other people I've met there. And so what I'm thinking is that maybe I just won't try to go every week, just go when I can and feel, when I'm there, I will be as pleasant as I feel I've always been, saying, hi, how was your week? How's work going? And if I don't get answers or just, oh, fine, and she'll walk away, I'm just not going to feel that it's my fault that she did that, I guess. That's the first thing I'm thinking of.
Okay.
The second thing I'm thinking of is, I hate for her to feel so angry all the time.
Right.
And it's just not anger at me. I think it's related to maybe she'd like to be retired sooner, or maybe she's not happy with how her house is coming together. I don't know. But so I thought, and this is really out there, maybe if I called her and asked her if she'd want to go to a counselor or somebody to talk us through it in a neutral place. And that's where I am, and that's where I'm afraid to go forward with.
Okay, and that's you're afraid of it because of how she might react?
That she'll just lash out and think that's the most ridiculous thing she's ever heard of.
Okay, and if she's feeling particularly nasty and angry, she could
Yeah,
just
yeah.
say, "Why don't you go to a counselor? I don't need one."
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, it was just all the things that she said I've been. I felt like, wow, she's just like that. She's describing herself.
Ah, interesting.
But I didn't say that. I just said, well, I just kept apologizing. I'm really sorry. And, we all went through not so good things when we were growing up because I was 7 years younger. I was out of the house a lot sooner than she was.
Right.
And she had to deal with things that I wasn't aware of. Um, so I wasn't there. And she's really angry that I wasn't there to help her through some tough stuff, which because she was in her teens and she had a lot of friends, I never thought that she was really going through anything of difficulty. So
Okay, so you can't go backwards, and you can't
right, right.
redo the history, but you do know what
Yes.
the history is now in a way that you didn't before. So your letter accomplished, putting things up on the table anyway, right?
Yes, yes, a bit. In a
Now,
vague way, but, no specifics. But, yeah, I'm
oh,
sure things were difficult.
so the other question that's really important to ask you as part of this process is,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want to feel with her, and what do you want her to feel? If you could make magic happen, what would you like her to feel about you and about your relationship?
Well, several years ago, I uh, got sick and identified with a cancer, and she put together with some friends of mine an event that raised some money to pay some bills that I was getting quickly, and she did it in such a loving way, and so just such a great offering, and I was totally blown away by the whole thing. And she would come and shave my head when I needed it shaved when my hair started falling out, and she was just there, and I always thanked her and was just always told people how supportive she had been and how helpful and how she would jump in and do something without my asking her, even knowing that I needed it. And over the last couple of years, it's just been, the distance has been growing between us. So what I would like to have happen is that we maybe not be on the same plane that we were before 8 years ago, but that we could still call each other up and talk and not just be sisters again, not necessarily friends,
Okay.
because we didn't socialize a lot together, just at holidays.
So if I'm again, I want to
Well,
be
just to feel like I could call her and just talk through things, not necessarily about what she's grown up with, but just what's happening, or let's go do this, or how about a movie?
so let
Which I
me
feel I can't do. I'm sorry, I'm butting in, but go ahead.
let me just suggest that if I can put some feeling words around this, at one point in your life, she was loving and caring and supportive, right?
Yep.
And you're sort of hedging your bets and saying maybe we can't quite get back to that,
Right.
but ideally that would be what you want, isn't it?
Yep. So that I could be there also in the same way,
Right. And
which
so
I apparently didn't do before. So
right. So now if that's the goal for a loving, caring, supportive relationship, and right now what you have is sort of a bit of anger, maybe some frustration, some jealousy, and that's sort of what's happening on her end. And on your end, you're like, wow, I had no idea, and feeling surprised and upset that you didn't know that you needed to be there, and maybe feeling guilty that you weren't aware that she needed you even.
yeah, a lot of that. Yep.
So then the question is, how do you move from where you are, all these sort of negative, unpleasant feelings, to the more positive, loving, caring, supporting? And so one of the things that you want to ask yourself is there's, I don't know what the conversation's been like so far with the two of you, but it sounds like it was sort of like her trying to justify why she's behaved the way she has by calling you out on certain behaviors, and that you tried to sort of make it a little bit better, but it never really got quite
Right.
where you wanted it to go, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then the question becomes, if you had that one moment in time that felt so wonderful to you,
Mhm.
And you thought that since it's happened in the past, the way that it happened was that you got sick, and you don't want to get sick again. You don't want to. You don't want
Yeah.
to. You don't want that to be the reason.
Right.
But I wonder if there's a way to think about trying to build on that. And what I mean by that is when she felt you were down and out and maybe going to be gone, it changed something for her.
Mhm.
And what I'm wondering is if don't call her up and say, I got cancer, but call her up and say how you're really feeling about this, and that, well, you're not sick, physically sick. I'm sick about all the things that you told me about that I wasn't aware of, that I didn't respond to, and that I wasn't able to help with. And I'm just emotionally really feeling like I miss you, I love you, and
Right.
I want to somehow see if I can, in some way possible, be there for you in ways that are meaningful to you. And would you let me in your life? And you don't have to even answer me now, but I'd like you to think about that. And when you're ready, let's talk about it, or something along those lines.
Sure. That sounds very doable. Yes.
So the last thing in terms of trying to change feelings is if you can come up with an idea that you can answer the questions. This is the managing part of this roadmap. The first is
Right.
identify how you're feeling, and then what would be ideal to feel, and then how do you get there. And so I've sort of provided you with a strategy that's based on something that happened in the past. That was a physical illness, where everything that was negative in her mind about you just totally seemed to change.
Yeah.
And if you can go back and just let her know that emotionally this is so upsetting, not because of anything she did, but because of what you didn't do.
Right. Right.
And that somehow you'd love to have what was there before that was so wonderful between the two of you, and that you want to be there for her. And that's a question you can you answer, yes, I'm able to do that and I'm willing to do that, and it sounds like you are.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Well,
Because
go ahead.
I don't want her feelings about me overflow to her anger and telling other people about it, and like other siblings, that I'm going to be even more.
Oh, did I lose you? The call's gone, so I think that the signal disconnected. But we got to the place where I wanted to get to. Thank you very much for Ann, and if you have this conversation and if it goes well, love to hear back from you. I hope it does, and for everybody else that's listening, I hope you understand. Then the idea of the show isn't just to help somebody who calls in; it's to try to explain how to be helpful to others. So if I can walk back through what I just covered in summary form, it's like. So this person, Ann, or not necessarily Ann, but Ann called in and was upset about some things that were happening with somebody in her family. I asked her to explain the situation to me, and once I understood what was happening, I asked her about the feelings that were involved, and then I asked her about what she was thinking of doing, and then I asked her what would be ideal. And it was when I asked her what was ideal that she told me about the one time in their lives where her sister had been amazing towards her. And so I knew that there was a possibility that might be able to happen again, but you don't want to duplicate getting sick again, physically sick, but truthfully, Ann's feeling emotionally sick, right? She's just feeling like, I wish I'd been there for her. I'm feeling really guilty that I wasn't. I had no idea, but why didn't I have an idea? Instead of justifying, she's really feeling like she'd like to turn that around. And so the kind of conversation I suggested to her was built on something in her own life experience that actually had worked. But we wasn't the same, but we were shooting for the same feelings for a different reason. And by her owning all this stuff and not making her sister feel defensive at all, but just telling her how much she loves her and cares about her and wants to rekindle that wonderful moment in time when she was physically sick. All that's really important, I think. So I hope that makes sense to you. This is something that I think is really important to be able to do. This is something that I think is really important to understand, that the roadmap really works in multiple ways for different kinds of situations, all of which have to do with emotions that are uncomfortable, challenging, uncertain, and so forth. So, anyway, my point is, if you want to call in, this is a good time to call in. We're about halfway through the show, and the number to call is 203-336-9756. And again, I thank you, Ann, for calling, and I hope that it's something that we talked about is going to make a positive, meaningful difference in your lives. In your lives, and I say lives because I hope it's for you and for your sister. My guess is because your sister did reach out to you that one time, that there's a spark in there that could be ignited and take off and create a wonderful, loving relationship in a place where there's just a lot of darkness right now. So again, the show's The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. You're listening to Chuck Wolf. You're tuned to WPKN at the University of Bridgeport in Bridgeport, 89.5 FM, independent community radio, broadcasting from the University of Bridgeport, serving Fairfield, New Haven, and Litchfield counties in Connecticut and Suffolk County. In New York's Long Island, we stream around the world at WPKN.org, TuneIn Radio, Radio Free America, and WPKN's free app, WPKN Live. You can get info in the WPKN podcast, where you can hear this show. If you've missed past shows, you like the show and you're first hearing it, or if you've heard it before and you're a regular listener, but you want to listen to some shows you might have missed, you can go to WPKN.org and click on podcast, and you can find us that way. I'm a big SoundCloud. I like SoundCloud, so I post my shows. They're on SoundCloud, but they're also on iTunes and Stitcher, and so you can find them there by going to those podcasts and typing in the Emotion Roadmap, and you will find me. Another place where you can find my shows are on the Public Radio Exchange. These I post shows that a lot of times I will do interviews with people that I think are really interesting in the field related to emotional intelligence or to leadership or to relationship building. And I just think that they're just really incredibly smart folks that I've gotten to know. They sometimes write books, and they like talking about their books, and so I have them on the air. And some recent ones that I thought have been just amazing. One was Helping Others Change by Richard Boyatzis. You can find that on the Public Radio Exchange, my podcast with Richard. A wonderful interview. He's a great thinker, funny man, and just a delight. And just a curious thing about Richard is one of the world's most famous psychologists these days, and well known for his work in emotional intelligence in the field. But he started off as a rocket scientist, and most people don't know that about him. A very interesting person. And then just last month with Mark Brackett, who is the director for the center at Yale University, the Center for Emotional Intelligence. And Mark has written a book called Permission to Feel, F-E-E-L, to feel, permission to feel. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to feel things. There are a variety of reasons that have to do with, heredity, and quite a bit to do with our environment and how we grow up and what it was like in our homes, or even if we didn't have homes, but we grew up in foster care or orphanages. Lots of different things influence whether or not we allow ourselves to feel things and how we respond to our feelings. Mark's book is brilliant, and it's not, you might think with his background it'd be very academic, but it's very accessible. It's really a wonderful book for understanding how to better manage your own emotions and how to relate to others. Okay, the show is the Emotion Roadmap, and if you've got something on your mind that you're concerned about, that you think you might want to call and talk to me about, to make sure you have enough time, this would be a great time to call. The number is 203-336-9756. (203-336-9756). So I know that sometimes it's hard to pick the phone up and make a call, but hopefully if you were listening just a few minutes ago and you were listening to the phone call with the woman who didn't want to give her name, but I called Ann, you heard that you can find out some information that could potentially be life-changing and extremely helpful to you. So that's what I like to do here. So again, I'll give you a moment to call me, 203-336-9756. Okay, well, I'm waiting for someone to call in case anybody wants to call. Again, 203-336-9756. I like to come in with themes that I want to talk about that I think are emotionally powerful. And the one theme that I thought I'd talk about today, because I'm working on this at home, are home movies. Some of you, those of you that are, older members of our listener community, grew up with photograph albums, some videos of pictures of memories when maybe you were children or you took pictures of your own children. And a lot of that is being lost, I think. It seems like the generations of people coming along now don't seem to want to save many things like that. And there's so much that's available through social media because we can take videos so easily these days. We can take pictures. And now we have thousands of pictures and videos. What happens to them all? What's going to happen to them all? Are you saving them? What are you doing with them? So my wife and I, we've had some videos that we took of our children. I was one of those early adapters of technology that took home movies. I really wanted to have the chance to take these images of our children growing up and have them posterity. Well, a lot of them were recorded on VHS tapes, and as you know, VHS tapes, even DVDs, are kind of disappearing, right? The technology is going away. So what happens to them? They deteriorate over time, and also the equipment isn't there to play them. So how do you convert them over so you can put them in some memorable way on computer disk or hard drives or something so they're accessible to generations to come? How do you do that? So I've had a couple of false starts on this, but I decided I was going to tackle this. And this is really, I don't know if you've taken home movies yourself of your children when they were younger and you had these images of what it was going to be like. But when I first did this, you had to buy a big video camera. It wasn't like having a smartphone in your pocket. It was these giant cameras, looked like studio cameras. They were really big. And when you carried them around, they were heavy. So you really had to be thoughtful and methodical about where you're going to do this and how you're going to do it. And so I remember the first day I brought home this camera, we were all very excited about it. And my image was, I have 3 daughters. At the time, I just had 2. There were only 2 that were born. I was living in Houston, Texas at the time. And I had this image of my 2 daughters kind of running through the wildflowers while I filmed them and then slowing it down a bit. And so, you just had this wonderful imagery of family life and our family being just so spiritually happy and wonderful and compelling and engaging. So I said to the kids, let's go out and take some pictures. And so we went outside in Houston where we lived. We had a nice home. And we were in the driveway because I thought it would be easier. Oh, the kids wanted to ride their bikes. They had some bikes. And they got on their bikes, and it was really hot. And it took us a while to get the bikes out. And by the time the bikes are out, all of us were sort of sweating. And then one of my daughters, the younger one, fell off her bike and started to cry. And then the other daughter, I said, no, don't cry. Don't cry. Dad's taking pictures. Anyway, it wasn't the joyous, spiritual, wonderful occasion I was hoping it would be. But having said that, even that was funny. Just having some of that on film was funny and a memory worth cherishing. And so I wonder what is happening in your world with your families, with your home videos. So we were just kind of watching. My wife and I am started this process, and I have put some of these videos, transferred them to a computer, and figured out with some help from some wonderful people at Simsbury Community Television that were helping me a little bit understand how to use some technology that I haven't used in a long time. And anyway, so with some help from people, I was able to download some of these things, and now we're starting to edit them, which is great actually. Because there's a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily want to save, but other stuff that's just precious. And so one of them was a couple of my daughters who have children. The two of them were talking in this video that I took of, their first day of school. I used to love to film when they came home on their first day of school and what that was like. And they were talking about this teacher, and I said, she's a very attractive woman. And she said, my daughter said to me, yes, she's actually a grandmother. I said, she's a grandmother? Wow. I thought she was so young. That's really surprising. And anyway, we ended up talking, and then we ended up saying, well, I guess for us, for Mom and I to be a grandmother and grandfather, then you two would have to have children. And then we all laughed about that. And now they have children. So this is kind of a cute clip, I think, to share with my daughters when I have the chance. Anyway, it's been lots of fun to try and capture this. But I wonder about, emotionally, what happens when this is all just out there, but never consolidated in any meaningful way. And if any of you have any plans or ways that you're thinking about pulling this together in today's world with social media, with so much that's available, do you have any plans for how you're going to save any of it and where you'll save it and how you save it? If you do, give me a call. It'd be interesting to talk about. 203-336-9756. And again, if you've got something that's on your mind, again, I have enough time still to be helpful to somebody. If you want to give me a call at 203-336-9756. The show is all about helping people deal with very challenging situations in their lives where they're stuck. In my experience, smart people get stuck when there are strong emotions in play, either inside themselves or there are strong emotions in the people or person that they're dealing with who is part of a situation that they're trying to improve, correct, address, and so forth. So if you've got something in your community, if you've got something in your family, if you've got something in your workplace, and you want to talk about it, this is a chance to call and get some help. Again, I'm Chuck Wolf. This is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And anytime any one of you might call, it's an opportunity for other people to learn as well. So while I'm helping you, I sort of explain what it is I'm doing and the way that I'm helping you so that other people might duplicate the process with their loved ones or their family members or their workplace associates or team members or leaders or followers and so forth. So if you've got something on your mind that you're uncertain about how to proceed, you're not alone. And typically, again, really good critical thinkers, really excellent problem solvers, when they're stuck, it's almost always because something emotional is happening. And I've created this emotion roadmap to help people to address that. So, again, 203-336-9756. And the other thing I'd like to talk about is the idea of what it means to be... Oh, okay, I got a call. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who's calling, please?
Yeah, how you doing? My name's Bob.
Hi, Bob. I'm doing fine. Thank you. How can I help?
Great. Yeah, I was listening to your program this morning, and it reminded me of a problem that I have, a family issue that I've been dealing with for probably 15 years or so now. And it involves an older brother, and it involves inherited property that we were inherited as a family. And it's a summer, basically, place, and this brother is just totally consumed with this place to the point where, he gets violent and physical, that kind of thing. When it comes to certain tasks, or for example, we have rules, for example, how work gets done and that kind of thing, but unfortunately, they're not always followed, and which leaves a lot of, I think, room for this particular brother to go crazy, and use that as an excuse to try to, go after people. And over the years, there were originally 9 of us involved in this particular piece of property, and he's over the years systematically focused on one particular sibling and assaulted, attacked, demeaned to the point where they drop out, and then he focuses on another one. So right now there's 4 currently left, And I'm just trying to figure out ways to deal with this guy.
This is a brother, you said?
Yeah,
Okay, so and this has been going on for about at least 15 years?
correct.
When you say he gets physically violent, he's actually hit people, or what does that mean?
Yeah, he does. He'll get you into a situation where you're secluded, and then he'll assault you. So there's no witnesses, that kind of thing. I've actually called the police on him 3-4 times, and each time I have, I've been the one that's been taken to the police department and charged because he runs off into the woods and hides away, and it's just getting to the point where I'm at my wit's end, actually.
Well, that's kind of a strange scenario. You say you call the police about him, and you've got charged?
Yeah. Because in the state of Connecticut, if you call on a family member, they arrest both family members. They don't care who did what happened. They just arrest you, and then they let you go before a judge and let them figure it out.
Wow.
But in this case, he runs off. They never catch him. And that's basically been the way it's been happening.
So he sounds like he's got serious emotional problems then. You agree with that, I assume?
I would agree, yeah.
And this is a family problem, so there's a number of siblings. How many people were involved initially you said 9, but are they all siblings, or are they just married?
Correct, yeah.
They're all
siblings.
It
was all siblings. It was a piece of property that was left in a trust to the family, to 9 siblings, and then ultimately it's whittled down to 4 right now.
And the 4 that are left have just decided, the ones that decided not to be part of it, had just decided to walk away because it was just too aggravating?
Well, yeah, because of the violence and because they just didn't want their children to have to deal with that as well, because he'd focus on the kids as well.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing. I thought, okay, I'll set up cameras, but it's very difficult to do that, to set up cameras or try to get some physical evidence to bring to a judge or bring to a court, that kind of thing. It's really gotten to the point where something's got to happen. Because I'm actually honestly afraid that this guy's going to do something that's going to jeopardize my life or my other siblings' lives or a friend. I've actually written to the police in the town, letting them know my concerns, letting them know, hey, when you arrest me because I called you for help, that basically causes me now to be in a situation where I can't rely on the police for help.
So this doesn't sound to me like this is going to be resolved through changing how you feel or how he feels necessarily. This sounds like a question of how do you want to protect yourself going forward?
Well, it could be that. It could be that. But honestly, if I could somehow get this guy to open his eyes and realize that, wow, why am I so consumed by this shack in the woods, which is basically what it is, versus my own property, my own life, my own home, which he has, but he doesn't maintain his home. He basically lets it's falling into disrepair. But yet he'll focus 100% of his energy fixing every little scratch that might happen to this little shack in the woods.
Now, does he have a family, this brother?
Never married, never had a girlfriend. 60 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Doesn't know how to have relations, never worked with a company where he had to work for somebody. So he's more or less like a sociopath, if you ask me. Doesn't think the laws of society apply to him. Works in the shadows of society. That kind of person.
What makes you think, Bob, that you can actually help him?
I don't think I can. I don't know that I can. I'm just trying to figure out coping strategies for me in ways, that I can avoid. And I understand, avoid being around the guy. But unfortunately, when you're at a summer place and he's there 90% of the time, it's very difficult to avoid other than just saying, hey, I'm giving up my inheritance. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to stoop to that.
you didn't want to stoop to that because you still want to work it out, and even though it's gone on for all these years, you're still
I'll be
hopeful.
honest with you. No, if I didn't have to work it out, that'd be fine. As long if he disappeared tomorrow, it would be wonderful. I wouldn't need to work anything out. No, I mean the point is that I just want to be able to go up there and enjoy my place without being assaulted or harassed.
It's hard to give something up that was given to you. I understand. What you have other siblings, some that are still involved, and what are they feeling and thinking about this?
As I said, there's 3 others besides myself.
Yeah.
One is a brother who works for the brother that I have the issue with, so he's more or less like a minion.
Oh, okay.
Will never say what is right, never do what is correct. Always follow this guy's line of thinking and action. The other one is she's afraid of him, basically, and tries to avoid just being there 100%. And she's part of the problem because she's the trustee who really is supposed to be having meetings where we figure out and iron out problems and address issues and that kind of thing. But she's basically capitulated on her responsibilities as far as I'm concerned when it comes to that kind of thing.
Have you and you've thought, I'm sure, about walking away, and what does that feel like to you?
Well, I thought about it, but again, it would feel like I'm just allowing this thug to pressure me out of something that I've inherited, just like he did to my 4 other siblings. So I really, don't want to be, I don't want to give him that power. And he'll never get that power from me. In fact, it ultimately turned to the point where I was always avoiding, always running, always, trying, if he'd come at me and I'd run and cower and blah, blah. And then finally I just said enough is enough. He assaulted me in front of my little girl and my 2 nieces. And at that point, the strength of God came into me. And I was able to physically subdue him.
Hey, Bob, let me ask you a question. How much time do you spend thinking about this?
Well, I used to think a lot about it. Honestly, I used to think a lot about it because it really bothered me, and I enjoyed going to that place. So, Of course, it bothered me a lot. But I'll be honest with you. After I realized that I could kick this guy's ass, so to speak, and that if he comes at me, I'm just going to clobber him. And I realize that I don't really need to worry about it. It's just that it's a stressor. If I pull in the driveway and I see the guy's car, I got to go, okay, now is today going to be good day or bad day? Is he going to be a nice guy or bad guy? You know what I mean? He changes like the weather. One day he's nice, but he's always seething underneath, like a pot ready to boil. There's always something killing this guy. So, I'm trying to deal with it that way, but I still don't want to, I'm getting up there. I don't need to be fighting with somebody. I don't need to have to deal with this. Somebody accidentally gets hurt really badly or something. I don't want to be part of it, but I don't want to also give up what I've inherited for my child's sake as well, because ultimately it will be, hers. So, there's a lot of, I guess, I don't know what the word I can use for that is, but it's a lot of concern.
Well, let me say this to you, Bob. I'm going to run out of time in a minute here, so I gotta get going. But if I had more time with you, I'd kind of walk through this with you. And this isn't going to feel like it's an answer to you, but I'm going to say just what I think ultimately is the best choice for you. If you were to walk away and not go back there while this guy's still alive, it's still at some point the family inherit it. So your children might still get to use the place once you and he and this generation's gone. So that's one thing. The other thing I'd say to you is, I gotta believe that I'm guessing that your siblings that have walked away are feeling much better about life than you are, with this constant struggle and not knowing whether or not you're dealing with a sociopath today or a brother that I can get along with for a little while. To me, honestly, I think unless your sister and the other siblings were all willing to do an intervention of some kind, which it doesn't sound like they are. One works for the guy, your sister is afraid of him, and the others have just kind of left and are out of it. I tell you, to me, if I was in your shoes, and what I'd recommend to you is, I think life would be 1,000 times better for you if you say, you know what, I love this place and I'd love to be able to use it, but it's not worth the power this guy has over me right now with what it is that you think about every time you think about going up there. And so when you say you don't want to give him that kind of power over you, I think you are already. And not that you're willing to fight it, but is that, to me, it's not worth the struggle. But I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear, and I'm sorry about that, but I got to go. I apologize.
No, I appreciate your thoughts on that. Believe me, I do. I think in the case what you're saying here is just simply, it's not something you can walk away, because then we do lose our ability to, once you walk away, you're done.
Well, when you say walk away, what does that mean? I mean, if you're walking away and you still own it, I mean, you're just not showing up anymore.
I suppose that's something to think about.
I hope so. I got to run.
I appreciate it. Have a
Thanks,
great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody. You've been listening to Chuck Wolf, the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And I'll be back the following month. Bye-bye, everybody.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.